All right. Welcome to June MacAdmin Monthly. Woohoo! Woohoo! We are June, mid-year already. It's definitely getting hot and humid everywhere, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here mostly to talk about announcements from WWDC, how they affect you, what it means for you. So a lot of announcements. I don't even like. Let's just dive right in. I don't even know where to start. I'll tell you my overall impression. I was pretty happy and surprised. It seemed like the culmination of a number of years of kind of things we've been hearing from Apple and directions they wanted to go, all kind of hit all at once in a good way. I guess I don't even know where to start, but let's talk about imaging because that was sort of a surprise announcement, I think. And I think there are people, probably Sam and Henry, you probably even have a better understanding than I do, that so imaging is no longer dead. Is that the message that I'm hearing? That you can now ASR your contents onto a machine. Is that the case? What did I miss? I'm sure there's something. No?
It seems like that's always been the case. It's still the case.
There's more support. Like they're
They
more
added-
really supporting.
Yeah.
things.
No netboot. We didn't get netboot back. But we did get some kind of imaging back? No? All right.
So you can, I know what used to be the case is you could take a DMG that's a full system
Yes.
that has the 3 partitions, volumes, and it makes it bootable and everything, even on a T2 Mac. I think what they added was the ability to do like target individual volumes.
Yes, which they're going to need to do in 10.15 because now we have a separate system partition and data partition, much like iOS, and the
Yeah.
system partition is read-only. If you're up and running, it's at least read-only. Yeah, which I liked a lot. One change that you can speak to that they've announced is driver kit, right?
Yeah,
So like,
this
get
is
out of the
great.
kernel. Apple has been telling us for a long time, get out of the kernel. We don't like you there. What have you looked into driver kit at all?
Yeah,
A little
so
bit?
the new thing, it's called system extensions,
Yes.
and you can load drivers from driver kit, or what we're more interested in is an endpoint security
Mm.
app or framework, I'm really sure what to call it, that is loaded by system extensions and will let you do all the things we used to do with Chaos. So for Santa, this is a way that we can keep Santa working without a text in 10.15 and above. What's really cool about the system extensions in particular is it gives you all the stuff from Chaos and all this other stuff that we wanted for years,
So
but we never been able to get. So
yeah, so with system extensions, it seems like from the little I've read with Chaos, they made an explicit declaration like Chaos will go away at some
Mhm.
hand wavy point in the future.
Yeah.
But it seems like the endpoint security stuff is based more closely on the Mac
Yeah,
private
exactly.
stuff that they've tried to squirrel
Exactly.
away for a long time.
So,
So that's
like,
actually really exciting.
It's really exciting. So some big features that we had always wanted in Chaos but never got were ability to get arguments before an exec happened. You can get that now with, well, at least it's in the data structure. I don't know if it's populated. I haven't tried. You can, they have a flag that sends over if it's a Apple system binary. So we don't no longer have to guess in Santa if it at startup, like if there's anything that we're going to make an infinite loop by saying code sign this, but that's the code sign process.
Oh, right, yeah.
And cause deadlock that way. So it's that. There's a couple other things. Well, one huge one is in Santa and then all just drivers, and when you're running the kernel, you don't have access to like the C++ standard library or any other standard library. So we've done a lot of work to implement data structures and fast access to things ourselves. And now we can just use a proper C++ implementation of a hash tree or a hash map and not have to worry about it.
Nice.
So there's that. Should be more stable. Yeah, anyways,
Yeah, hopefully.
excited for it.
It also seems like a rare instance where they're like actually providing the tools you need before taking away
Yeah,
the access completely.
exactly. Yes, essentially we have a whole year, like at least for Santa's case, that runs in the beta 0. And it
Right.
seems like they said that they're not going to remove chaos for at least this release.
That won't be removed, and kernel extensions, like proper in the kernel extensions, will run all through 10.15.
Except they now require a reboot.
Yes.
Yeah, they do require, which I think is
And-
weird.
and actually, no, it's weird. It is a little weird, but I think actually it's a smart way to go. It's like, just like, be aware that like this is happening.
Yeah.
And, you know, be prepared in the future. This will be worse.
Yeah.
Without like,
Slowly incrementing the pain.
yeah. I mean, it's going to be a pain for us, like managing all these Macs and installing a new version. So I think new versions won't require a reboot.
Oh, okay.
That's what I've heard.
Based on underwriting.
I think
And
so.
if you are have the MDM whitelist, that bypasses the notarization requirement.
Nice.
Excellent. Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to know.
Yeah. Thank you. So
So what's not clear is, and I think this is, I don't know if we have a clear answer on this yet. I think Rich Troughton's awesome notes from WWDC.
Yeah. He does this every year. I'm glad they still keep giving him a ticket
Yeah.
because that's fantastic, and he's just doing awesome work for the community. So
So this similar type of mechanism of user-approved kernel extensions
Mhm.
is, I imagine they're going to have the same thing for user-approved system extensions, but I haven't heard anything if there's going to be like a MDM whitelist that you can push down.
There is not yet. You need to file feedback on that.
Okay, that's good to know,
good to know.
because we'll just be in the same situation as 10.10 or whatever it was when they added user-approved kernel extensions in at 13.
Right.
10.10 was a long time ago.
was 5 years.
So did someone school me on this, because I only half paid attention to most of the Mac stuff. Did anything happen with MDM that makes it more difficult to roll? Like, there are more like user approved things now, right?
There's some changes in user-approved things. The most important MDM thing that they announced, from my point of view, is that MDM. First, they moved to this supervised model away from the trusted MDM.
That
model.
was it, yeah. I think.
And that's a big deal, and I don't understand. It's a big deal mostly because I don't understand it, right? And I need to understand it better, especially since we have machines that will never be DAP enrolled.
Right, and there was the other announcement around T2-based machines, and in the future, if someone signs in with their iCloud account, it does activation like on iOS.
Oops.
So they could lock, if it's not in DEP, if it's not supervised, they could lock that device to themselves.
Right.
Now, I presume Apple has some way of getting out of that.
You presume a lot. Yeah, I don't know that. Yes.
Well, they
I would
kind
hope
of
so.
do now, right? Like if you genuinely, like if you erased your iOS device and completely forgot the password, and you go to set it up and it says, oh, this is activation locked by you, and it's genuinely your device, you can go to an Apple store and they will get around that for
That's
you.
true.
Like, a company, and of course, like the size and scale of Google, like you can't send everyone to the Apple store to go do that, or maybe you can, I don't know, but like it becomes a support hassle. That's all I'm saying. Like this employee has left, you get the machine back, you find out it's activation locked. You have to have some process for that.
And I guess even if Apple receives some units back and they get refurbished, they need to have a way to process that as well. So internally, they have to have some mechanism.
True.
Yeah, and they must be able to do that because they own the data.
Right. They own it all. That was the other interesting announcement, not necessarily like an enterprise announcement, but the Find My Mac feature now kind of works like Tile. Did you catch that?
No.
So
That's
you have your
weird.
Mac and you have Find My Mac enabled, and now you put the machine to sleep. And you go to a bar and you have one too many drinks and you leave your Mac at the bar and someone else walks off with it. Even though it's asleep, it's still doing a BLE beacon to let other Macs and iOS devices know where it is. So when you go to find my Mac, even though they walked off with your whole bag and everything, and your machine's asleep in that bag, you can find it. And that's kind of how Tile works now. You lose your thing as a Tile and it's out of Bluetooth range, other people running the Tile app get notified by this beacon. Now, I don't know if they're using the same encryption and hiding technologies. There was a decent article in Wired talking about, like, if Apple did this right, even Apple can't find your devices. Like, you need 2 Apple devices to enable this functionality. So you need an iPad and a Mac, or you need an iPhone and a Mac to have this public key encryption, like at least 2 keys to do this. And it rotates keys every so often. Like, you can't be tracked through this because it, rotates keys.
Pretty good tracker with iMessage, so
Yeah.
I would trust that.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of similar to how they do deal with
location's much more sensitive. Like,
yes.
because how do you obfuscate? Like, content is easy to encode content. I get nothing out of it. Location's much harder to do. Because a physical device sending a message, I don't have to do very much to interpret that as the location of the device.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of interested in going and getting some, like, Bluetooth scanner or SDR and watching the messages that come out of a Mac while it's asleep, and just to kind of understand, like, how much information they are broadcasting and what comes out. Because, that's part of the problem with the Bluetooth spec, is that through sort of just, like, not understanding it, if you watch what beacons from many Bluetooth devices, like, you can very quickly tell, like, the manufacturer, and they broadcast, the device name in some subfield, and it's like, Bluetooth is just very leaky in general. So I'm curious to go kind of hunt that down.
I would want to know how they did it, so that if I walk by you with your laptop and scan the Bluetooth and get that signal, that 3 days later I can't find you.
I would, again, I might presume too much, but I imagine Apple has thought deeply about how this works and how it functions.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a cool announcement. It's sort of
cool.
Not enterprise, but it's, like, sort of orthogonal to the activation lock and all the other stuff that iCloud allows you to do, but that also ties into, like, all the stuff iCloud allows you to do that a business may or may not want to enable.
Yeah. I wonder if you can turn it off.
File feedback. That will be the... Oh, yeah, speaking of filing feedback, no more Radar. It's Feedback Assistant, which I haven't tried out yet, but it seems like people are saying it's a pleasant experience.
Supposedly you'll actually get
feedback
that, like, this is going to happen, not just closed as a duplicate, but, like, actually give you feedback about what things are going to happen in the future.
Yeah, and again, I haven't looked. I don't know if anyone else here, Henry or Sam, you've looked, but apparently if you go into Feedback Assistant, it will also have all your old radars in there. So
yeah, I don't have that many radars, but I see the older ones, yes.
Okay,
that's good.
That's good to know. And do you actually get more information from those than you had earlier?
Not much.
Okay.
But I guess they're switching over the systems, and I guess there's other people who regularly file radars, and they can contribute more details on that, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
So I just opened one up, kind of to troll Apple, but it's related to what was being talked about earlier with activation and all that. And, we've all been begging for provisional DEP for Macs forever. Yeah. And digging through some things earlier in Slack, there is, it looks like provisional DEP is coming in 10.15. I don't know anything special under NDA, but if you look at the strings in user libexec Tesla D, and look for the word provisional. There's a lot of things in there that are very interesting.
Okay, it's an exercise left to the viewer. We'll check that out. I don't have my 1015 machine with me. I have my work machine with me, and sort of like as an aside, as a remote employee now, like it terrifies me to upgrade because like I have one machine. If I screw that up, I can't do any work, which is sort of like a weird place to be. I should probably have them send me like a Chromebook that I could use in emergencies or something, because I am interested in. I have a personal machine upgraded to 1015, but I'm sort of interested in making it my daily driver. Maybe a little later on. I have a test phone on iOS 13, and it has been spot on.
Really?
Really good.
I've heard that it's super crashy, but
really. So I have it on an iPhone 7. I haven't upgraded my main thing yet, but I have it on iPhone 7, and it's been pretty nice. As soon as I have the time, though, I'm going to do the iPad because I think I'm most excited. You know, it's so funny. I think like each WDC, like there are amazing things announced, but usually there'll be this one thing like, yeah, that's what's going to get me to upgrade. And I think the sidecar functionality is wonderful. I'm using Duet Display now, and it works. But the ability to also sort of, control your Mac as a tablet with the iPad, and again, presumably not as a third-party item, like Apple just has all those extra hooks into making it more performant and things like that. So I think for me, like Sidecar is just fantastic.
Maybe it's exciting to me because maybe they'll decide that the touch bar was a bad idea and just remove that completely and let you have a sidecar iOS device.
Maybe.
It shows the touch bar on the iPad when you use Sidecar.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, it gives you the touch bar. But I half agree with you. Like in terms of, they did release the iPad Air 13-inch with Touch ID with no touch bar. So I'm hoping as we go forward, we at least see that as an option, because that is the ideal configuration for me. I want Touch ID. I do not want the touch bar. And that's just, I don't know. If you talk to people who work at Apple, they claim like, oh, plenty of people love the touch bar. Maybe. I'll just have to believe them. Maybe. I don't necessarily love it. So, but that's great. If people like that option, great. New Mac Pro.
Yeah.
It might be too high end for 90% of the people on the planet, but that's a monster machine. All custom.
I'm looking forward to it in a couple of years when you get a used one and then
spec it out. You work at Google.
Well, like for personal reasons. If you wanted a personal Mac at home.
Okay. Honestly, even at the base configuration, I feel that it's $6,000 for the base configuration. It's not terribly far off. Like if you look at the trash can model when they first came out, you could also spend $12,000, $14,000 on the trash can configuration.
But you can also get in for $299.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, I think this is a very special machine aimed at people doing video, I don't even think you need it for audio, but people doing high-end video and people doing scientific computing. I think those people are really interested in it. I've definitely heard people in scientific computing interested in sort of the rack mountable version of these, but it's a monster of a machine.
And especially if you think of back then when the Quad G5 was coming out and all the audio and video people, they were amazed and they shelled out for the extra money. And I think nowadays the demo with about 1,000 tracks in Logic Audio was a bit, odd to me, but because who needs 1,000 tracks? However, it's amazing what power is in this beast. Yeah,
you're totally right. The 1,000 tracks was definitely like, we're doing this for a demo. Like it was a ridiculous amount. Like it was just showing like, yes, we can do this. I think Apple needed to do something like this. If you're in the film industry, you'll drop the money for this. And speaking to people in the film industry, like Final Cut with the move to Final Cut 10 or X, whatever they call it, like lost Apple a ton of customers.
Yeah, that was terrible.
People moved to Premiere, and the Trashcan Mac Pro lost a bunch of customers to Windows and Hackintosh, believe it or not, because people in the film industry could just not get the power that they needed. So whether this brings those people sort of back into the fold or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, the 1,000 tracks on Logic was certainly excessive, but I'm sure there will be people in the audio industry buying one or more of these, and they're maybe they don't need it as much as the film industry, but there'll be plenty of people who just say like, yeah, I want that for my studio.
Yeah, if nothing else, it looks good.
They look beautiful, and I really like the nod sort of back to the original, like the cheese grater style machine. I think that's pretty cool, and you can rack it.
And like I know people who are still using, and I mean I still have one, the 2010 or 2012 Mac Pro 5.1. And if you're still using that, if you're still using a 5.1, like that's a solid upgrade.
Yeah.
But and what I did notice is they've dropped support for the 5.1 in 10.14. It had that weird support, or in 10.15, it had that weird support in 10.14 where you had to upgrade the graphics card. But probably 12 people did that.
Yeah.
And they looked at the analytics and they're like, we're just going to give them a new computer. You've had this for 8 years.
Yeah. I've definitely seen the same. So I've brought up some things. What else did I miss? What are people excited about, or horrified?
I'm really hype on user enrollment for MDM. Like, there's quirks about it, but I was not expecting that. And
so
it's early, but it's very cool.
I didn't catch that feature. Maybe you can explain it a little bit.
So it's MDM, but not to control the whole device. Kind of like work profiles on Android.
Ah.
But when you enroll, it creates a separate APFS volume just for that data.
Wow.
Which doesn't give the company full control over the device. And not only did they create that, when they announced it, they were up on the stage like, hey, it's time to rethink your security policies and not, like be overly controlling of people's phones. So I think
what session was that? Do you remember what? Oh, thanks. Do you remember what session that was? Because I'd love to.
It was the managing Apple devices.
Okay.
And it's included on Mac OS 2.
Wow. All right.
There are some requirements for it, like you have to use managed Apple IDs, which can be hard if you don't use Azure AD. But I think this is going to be a really big deal.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's interesting that this is version 1 of it, and as we move along, hopefully they will make it easier to do that. So you're saying that applies or is a feature for both Mac OS and iOS?
Correct.
Wow. That is really cool, because I think that's a lot of people's fear with MDM, particularly in a BYOD environment, that I want to access this stuff, and like, oh well, you have to put this profile on it, and by the way, we can erase your whole device if you do that. Right? Like that's the speed bump for a lot of people.
And like I've been asking MDM vendors, including Google, for like limited entitlements in device MDM enrollments forever, but the only MDM vendor that I've ever seen do anything like that was Jamf.
Oh.
Where they would do MDM enrollments for BYOD that wouldn't have the erase device entitlement. It's not an entitlement, it's called something else, but basically it didn't have the rights to do any of the things that you don't actually need.
Interesting. All right. What else? What am I missing? There were a ton of announcements, and you know, like this year, I don't remember if they did it in previous years, but so Apple had all the live sessions, but they also prepared some video-only sessions. So even if you attended WDC, there's all this sort of like extra content that you can go to the WDC app and go watch. So just too much for the week.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of information. So like, I'm sure things get buried. Oh, I know what I want to raise that sort of affects everyone here. Again, some hand-wavy point in the future, scripting languages go away as part of the default install. Now, I think everyone here knows how to deal with that. I don't know what knock-on effects that have for the general population or at all. But I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, here comes Microsoft, who's now shipping a system Python. Like, you will have Python on Windows as part of the base install, and here's Apple removing it. I mean, I can kind of see both sides to that decision. But I think that's one thing as Mac administrators, like we've always counted on for a very long time, just to say, like, yes, I'm going to roll out this Python script, and we know it's on the system. We don't have to do anything. I don't know. I don't have any strong feelings, to be honest, around either rolling your own.
I get why they did it. Like it's an
It's a
incredible attack vector, right?
Yeah.
So, but it does feel kind of like they're abandoning the sort of Unixy roots of the operating system. And I wonder about, like, you will no longer be able to write a pre-install script
Yeah,
in Python, right? You're installing something.
Yeah.
What are you going to write pre-install scripts in? Because you don't know it's already on the device. You won't be able to, like, what will you write it in?
You could bring along your pre-install script.
Pre-install script for you. You write a EKG file. It's got a pre-install script. What do you write the pre-install script in?
JavaScript.
I think
PHP.
I'm pretty sure the
PHP.
I'm pretty sure the scripts have access to the
PHP is still there, but they are including the Swift stuff in there now, so you write it in Swift.
Swift.
There you go.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's
That's
fair.
probably where they're pushing people.
I mean, I don't
right?
I think that's a terrible answer, but that probably is the right answer.
Well, I mean, again, okay, so this is going to bring us off on a slightly different tangent, but you know, for years and years and years, and I was certainly of the opinion of like, ugh, why bother with Swift? It doesn't solve anything for me that I can't do with Objective-C. And yes, and the short version of that is the time has come. We now have ABI stability. We hopefully don't have like this ever-changing landscape of the language. And with the runtime on the Mac now, all right, maybe it's time.
And Swift UI, if you need to build a GUI.
Yeah, Swift UI is a big one, but if we're just doing command line stuff or pre-install, yeah, you got Swift, and it's probably time to start digging in. Is the runtime? I haven't looked, but is the runtime on 10.15, you know, available to do that sort of scripting trick where you can do a shebang line with, you know, user bin Swift and actually just write sort of a.
Yeah. You can do a 10.14.4 and above.
Because the Swift runtime is on 10.14.4 and above? I did not realize that. Awesome. Well, that's good to know.
My problem with Swift is it's really hard.
Yeah,
like,
it's
as
not,
hard as C++.
I agree.
I mean, you can write simple stuff, but if you want to use any of the features like generics or any of the modeling that they have, like, you're essentially learning C++, and they tout it as something easy, but it's not.
Yeah, and
it turns a lot of people away because of that.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's also not a nice language to read.
Yeah.
So if you're sharing it with people, it's certainly nice as, you know, again, Python or some other languages. But here we are. I don't know how much to change that. But Swift UI, though, speaking of Swift UI, that is going to be iOS 13 and 10.15 only, right? So you can't use Swift UI to target older machines, I don't think. Someone correct me if I'm speaking incorrectly.
And you can still write the code that the Swift UI generates, which is just UI kit code.
Okay, that's fair. Oh, yeah, and I guess that was the other big announcement. Marzipan or Catalyst is a real thing, and it's here. I was very surprised when they said that you can create a Catalyst app and distribute it without going through the App Store. I was floored at that because I figured like an iOS app, they're going to require like an iOS style app, but apparently you will still be able to distribute it on your own to the Mac. But like I think it's a big deal, the Catalyst stuff. We'll see how well it works. It should be sort of business as usual.
And if we hope that it's less Electron apps, why not give it a run?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I'd agree with that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
What else? What else worked for people, or what else is scaring people?
Speaking of the App Store, Mac App Store in particular, we haven't looked into it too closely, but theoretically, Santa could be distributed through the Mac App Store.
Oh, because it's not
like,
a kernel extension anymore.
Yeah. That's just kind of wild to think about. And you'll be able to distribute endpoint security tools through the Mac App Store, potentially.
Yeah, okay.
I love the idea. So go for it.
The one thing that I saw, I think I only saw it today or noticed it today, but apparently Apple did say something like, oh, we're going to have the right to inspect any binary, even like one you've signed with an enterprise certificate. Like particularly if you're using an enterprise certificate, we want to be able to examine those binaries.
How are they going to do that?
I think as you're going to have to notarize it,
Oh.
and as it goes up, notarization. So I suspect there are some people at Facebook and Google whose heads have kind of exploded, and will be looking into what the implications of that actually are. Because yes,
notarization is not too bad.
What's that?
Notarization is not too bad.
No, notarization is not too bad, but yes, there have been companies caught using their enterprise certificates improperly. But the flip side is for companies that are using it properly, or when it's used properly, it's a legitimate distribution channel for your corporation for beta versions, unreleased versions of things, things that you might not want Apple to know about. Like that's kind of none of their business in some ways. So that one has me a little curious.
And I don't remember in which session it was, but I think briefly they mentioned that the Apple Seed changes as well. So that in the future, every organization that is on the Apple Business Manager participates in the Apple Seed program, which formerly was more close to certain organizations.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't catch that. Yeah, so much to catch. But I will post the link in the channel that talks about looking at enterprise certificates. Review. Boom. All right. What am I missing? Someone school me, because I had to miss something. Because I had a very busy week, including WDC, and just trying to fit in all the videos and news. What affects us that I'm missing? I think. The sign in with Apple stuff was kind of interesting. It's interesting that they will be requiring it if you have any third-party sign-in, which was kind of interesting. Like, it just seemed like random throwaway IDs. Yeah.
It doesn't work with managed Apple ID.
That doesn't work with managed Apple ID. Sounds about right. Yeah, that definitely seems a more consumer-focused issue, but I don't know. I think it's good. Yeah. All right.
They highlighted the new documentation.
Yes, you're right. I haven't dug into it, but I've definitely seen sort of like people speaking highly of it. And documentation is always good because I think Apple Docs started off pretty good, and they took a little dip somewhere and never recovered. So if they put some focus on that, yeah, they're very appreciated. I also haven't had the need to look at Microsoft documentation in a while, but I always kind of remember, for me at least, like some of the Microsoft docs, just like they set the bar. Like amazing technical documentation with .NET and C#.
Yeah.
Not only would you get an explanation, but you would always get a code snippet and like, here's an example of how you use this. Just really detailed docs. Hopefully, hopefully Apple will hit that bar. Cool. So we have.
So something that I saw that I was really excited about is it's been in iOS for a few versions now, but they are putting, I think the API is SF authentication session on macOS. So all of our problems with web views, authentication in embedded web views may go away in the future.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to me. And the side note there is that it isn't constrained to working in Safari. It will use your default browser if that browser supports that API.
Nice.
Wow. That is very good. Good catch, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because web views kind of suck. Like for that, I mean, popping out to a web view for that kind of has never been super clean. Cool. So yeah, we actually have two conferences going on this week: Mac Deploy, Mac DevOps. So I presume they're all having similar conversations. Good timing with these with these conferences. And I saw Rich Troughton was at least speaking at Mac Deploy. So he went from WDC to Mac Deploy. I don't know if he continued on to Mac DevOps, but that's a good solid 2 weeks of content. And
We're going by the MLB standards. That's a world tour.
it is a world tour. And then Penn State coming up next.
It's a good conference.
It is a good conference. I haven't been in a few years because life and busy,
I think
whatever.
it's my favorite conference.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a really good conference. Like it's a very, like it's so big. There's like so many tracks. There's always something good.
It is. I think we have an embarrassment of riches. Like we're really lucky that a lot of good conferences. Although I don't remember when XWorld is. I know they're probably pretty close in time, even though they're not close in distance. But those are definitely the next two sort of coming up. If XWorld didn't happen already, I've lost track.
I think it's coming up.
Yeah. So no Penn State for me this year, unfortunately, just because busy, and I've been at conferences this week and last week, and this week upcoming is SummerCon, which is like old school hacker conference in Brooklyn.
Nice.
Oldest hacker conference, at least in the U.S. So that's cool. And of course, Max Sysadmin. Who's headed out to Sweden this year? Anybody?
I'd like to go. I haven't planned to go yet, but I would like to go.
It's not that far away from me, so I think I'll go
Good.
to support it continuously.
I will always go.
Yeah, that's. I don't know. That's probably my favorite conference.
I've never been.
Probably. I don't know. Like Penn State, I mean, I love them all. I really do like every conference. But going to Max Sysadmin, like, cool vibe, good good set of people to see. Yes, in the Slack channel, someone says Mac DevOps happening this week. So yes, that's happening. I think right now.
Yeah.
Right as we speak.
No, Mac Deploy is right now.
Oh, okay.
Mac DevOps is Thursday and Friday. I'm flying up there tomorrow.
Ah, sweet. Please say hello to everyone for us. So Mac Sysadmin, Mac Tech, JNUC for people that go to JNUC, and I think that rounds out the year. So, all right.
Chaos Computer Congress.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. Like I said, I've been going to sort of like a lot of conferences, but they're not Mac specific. So yeah, as soon as we get out of the Mac specific realm or Apple specific realm, they're just ton of events. You could just spend like every week going and attending conferences. But
I don't think I could.
you don't think you could?
I don't think I could.
Yeah, maybe you could.
No,
I have the stamina for it. I can do it.
You may.
Questions, comments, something I missed before we wrap up? All right. I will take your silence as see you next month.
See you later.
See you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.